Workshop 1625 is called to order. Dr. Lake, do we have any changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Rachel, a second by Christy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Tonight's workshop is a discussion which includes topics including real-world learning, updates on impact and CNA program, teacher evaluation, crisis communication, and Scale AI. We are going to start with teaching and learning. Tara.
All right, so we have some exciting things to share with you tonight about real-world learning. I'm going to invite our Impact folks to join us. As a reminder, as they are coming up to the tables, Impact started this year, so we rolled it out with sophomore students at the high school only as an interdisciplinary class. They meet in the afternoon. They'll go into more details about what that experience looks like. And we have 3 teachers who are assigned fully to Impact. We have Grace Jones for English Language Arts, and Grace is here with us, as well as Elizabeth Rechtine for Social Studies, specifically government, and then also Jessie Fisk for art. She was not able to join us. And then Cohen Forth, who is one of our Student Life Board Advisory members, is also here to share his perspective as a student and how the initial launch of Impact has gone. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
So like Tara just said, we started this year with art, English, and government with our 27 sophomore students. So on the board, we have a couple of the things that we've done so far of some of those connection points, the cross-curricular of art and English, reading a graphic novel, and then creating an art project based on that, U.S. government and art, and talking about political participation and creating propaganda. Right now, students are doing some microplastics-based experiments using brine shrimp and combining that with some art projects. So just a lot of really fun learning opportunities for students. There have been some growing pains as we continue to figure out like how to spend 3 hours a day together, which is a lot. And like even learning how to co-teach together, something that we haven't had to do for a lot of our careers, but it's also been incredibly fun. I included on this slide a couple of feedback items from some of our students about their favorite parts of the program so far. Talking about like the collaboration and getting like a bigger understanding of how learning ties together, as well as some of the students really like the back-to-back and just like using all that time for their learning and doing things like interviewing school board members. And we had like Crestwood Parks out last week to talk to students about the impact of public parks. So it's been very enjoyable so far, I think. Elizabeth, do you want to?
Yeah. Will you flip to the next slide, Tara? So we just wanted to include some pictures of things that we've done so far. So that picture in the middle is our entire crew. One of the first things we did as a group was letting them screen print t-shirts. So you see that on the bottom right, to kind of like unite us as a group and, you know, have some identity that they could show off around the school. And then the top right is our stop motion hero videos. So a lot of the students used Legos to help make stop motion videos. And then the bottom left is propaganda posters, so they had to combine a relationship between the government and the people and display that understanding through a propaganda poster, and then they used art, foam printmaking techniques to actually print those posters. And then the top left is another group that was very proud of their stop motion video, and we gave out little trophies for the best hero video and a number of other assignments and projects that we did. So we're having lots of fun with it.
Okay, so now we are going to turn it over to Cohen. Cohen, do you want to talk a little bit about your experiences so far?
Do I have to hold the button for it to work?
No, just press it once.
Impact, like, obviously it's different from a normal classroom. Categorically, I feel like the differences fall under the pacing and, like, general structure, student involvement, and then the grading. The pacing's obviously different. Like, we go through our seminars. It's, like, 6-week periods with 3 seminars in them. I think that on its own is already really helpful because it's like you have your set learning. Oh my, why does it not want to work all the time? It has its set learning things and you're like obviously going for them. I think the other two are where it gets like more like, I guess, better. The grading, it's not typical in the sense of like, oh, letter grades, score grades. It's more so chasing after competencies, which like obviously in a normal class, that's already how you're getting graded. but you kind of see exactly what you're doing, and you can tag the competencies when you submit something. So it's like it, and that also ties into the involvement. Students get a lot more involved. They know exactly what they're trying to do. And then initially you might have like an English essay or something, but if you want to tie it to art, and normally it's the other way around, but if you want to tie it to art, you make an art project with it. I think the main benefit, like what I would say and what I like so much about it is you really kind of, as a student, like I've always struggled with why am I doing this? Like that's been the main question I've had when I do anything. But with Impact, it kind of shows students like, oh, you're doing this exactly for this, and it gives them an opportunity to do things in the way that makes sense to them while still getting the same education every other student is getting. So it's just more like independent, not entirely independent, but you see where you're going with your learning, and you see how you're progressing forward and how you can tie that into your real world like experiences with the impact competencies, which it's 3, right? Local, personal, and global. You just see how everything you're learning and everything you're doing, you can actually use it in the real world, which is like almost the whole purpose of school. You're trying to see what you can do after school. And it just gives students an early look into how they're going to use what they're doing in the real world, which I think it's really helpful.
So we're excited. This year, obviously, we started with sophomores, and we are in the midst of planning for that expansion up to juniors next year, as our original goal was to each year expand it. And then at the end, after 4 years, we'll wrap around and it'll be accessible to freshmen. Currently, we're at half day. We're looking forward to the time when it can be a full day of programming where students can move in and out. That is the long-term goal, so that they can really craft a schedule that's going to give them that interdisciplinary real-world experience, but then that opportunity to say, oh, but I really want to do this class, and that's not really available in Impact, but I can go and do that within my schedule and get the best of both worlds. So some pretty exciting learning opportunities that are happening for kids. Any questions?
One of the concerns that I think some students and teachers had when we were, doing our focus groups and all of this was making sure that the students are keeping pace and learning all the standards. As a student, and I know your teachers have some tricks up their sleeve just in case they find a student falling behind, but as a student, do you feel like it might be hard to understand where you are on your track to make sure that by the end of the year, you're gonna have hit all the competencies?
Like I can see where that comes as difficult at first. I think the program of MyLC we're using does do a pretty good job of showing you, like you can see in a progression tab, like how you're progressing. I think our teachers also do a really good job of checking in and making sure you're on track. And like say you're falling behind in one class and not in another, it's like I do think our teachers do, again, like I said, a good job of making sure you have a way to get that credit. I think starting out it can be a little confusing, but once you get explained like these are the competencies you need, this is how you can do it, it does get a lot easier. I think it's mostly about the student has to want it, and like you can't want it for them, but I think we as a program we do a good job of trying to chase the competencies and even gain additional ones in options where we can. Like when I did for example like an essay for world history or government, I tagged in English, which also progressed me further in English. So I think like students do have a good way to see that they're progressing forward.
I had a question for you also. So I really I loved the comment where you said it helps you see why you're doing certain things. I have a student that often says to me, I don't see how school connects to, why do I need to be here? It's boring. So my question for you though is when you were talking, sorry, that's not a good thing to say. I apologize. I have a son who is not always enthralled by learning in a desk. But my question for you is, I heard you compare it to the competencies was one of the reasons that it really helped you see the purpose of what you were doing. But were you also referring to, and forgive me, I forget what you called it, but the 3 things, the local, global, and community. Can you explain how those things help you give purpose to what you're learning?
Yeah, so the three impact competencies we have is personal, how like you can make a personal impact on issues around you, directly involving you or people you know. Local, like local issues, local things you can make an impact on, and then global, I think it speaks for itself. I think it really helps in a sense of you're seeing how everything you're learning obviously goes out and impacts every single kind of issue. I think it's good that there are the three different ones. You can see at a personal level what I'm learning impacts, I guess, for example, English. What I'm learning in English impacts the way I communicate with people around me, communicate at places like this, communicate with my friends, all the stuff like that. And I think, again, going back to the government essay I wrote, we had to look at how our beliefs and stuff like that are impacting things around us. I think that Impact does a good job of showing you that. And like, it kind of made me think like, oh, I guess this isn't all pointless and everything I use every day didn't just spawn into my brain. And then the local and global, I should mostly speak for themselves. You see how you can affect the world around you with the knowledge you're gaining in a classroom. And I don't think a lot of classes do a good job of showing you that. Like, I think a lot of times in classrooms, I've said, I haven't asked, but I've heard people ask, why are we learning this? I haven't, I promise, guys. I hear people ask, why are we learning this? And the teacher just says, because it's part of the curriculum. Because this is what you need to graduate. You got to graduate high school. But I think Impact, it's, again, like I said, you do have to want it, but once you do, like, you see that you're learning stuff for a reason and not just to memorize stuff to put on a test.
Thank you so much for that, and I'm excited to see how we can take some of these things we're learning from this experience and take it into our other programs too. So thank you.
I just want to say great job. You are now our marketing video. We are going to cut your clips. You are awesome. What you described is the vision that we have had for this program, and we cannot wait to see it grow. And again, this type of learning experience is not for every student. We will always have that traditional pathway, because some kids just want to go, hey, tell me what I need to do right now to do this and that, and I'll go do it. But we have kids, and we've always had kids in our system like you that want to know the why and go this direction and really have that impact. And so, great job. Thank you for being here. That's awesome. Great job to you guys as well, because I know you've put a lot of hard work in this and owning this program. So thank you guys.
And I want to add, Cohen, you should get the video, the recording of tonight and submit this as evidence of the competency around speaking and listening. All right, thank you so much. We're going to move on to CNA and have our fabulous teacher, Kelly Ferris, join us, along with Dr. Jamie Cavato, and our CNA team to talk about Certified Nurse Assistance Programming.
All right, good evening. So I get the privilege of just giving a little bit of a recap of where we are at and an update. I think most of you, or a handful of you in this room, were at our ribbon cutting, which was fantastic, attended by DESE stakeholders, community stakeholders, government stakeholders. So that really told a story to me, all the individuals in the room, the support that we gained from the Limited Access Grant, because as we all know, we wouldn't be sitting here today to share this amazing program if that grant had not been possible by DESE and had we not applied and gotten that grant. So a couple of the highlights from that day is we had a lot of media coverage that just kept rolling in, so we're extremely proud of that, but most of all, proud that our students were allowed to showcase what they are starting to learn on their path of being a certified nurse's assistant. So again, just an update of where we're at tonight. I'm going to let everyone tell the story, so I don't have to tell you the story. But the main focus of our grant was removing barriers so our students could have access, because again, we had, I think at the end, it was between 20 to 25 students who were not gaining access to a nursing program through South Tech. So we decided to apply for the grant, see what that would look like, and we're up and running. And I'm gonna give a little bit of update, Colin, if you go to the next slide, on where we are at as far as the grant. What we do this school year is we are gathering all of our receipts and purchase orders in a document. And what we will do is at the end of our fiscal year, so probably I would say it'll be around April, we will submit all of our documents to DESE. And it's a little bit different than our normal grants. Usually when you apply for a grant, you have a budget screen in a program called EPEGS. And with this grant, you don't have a budget screen. So what you do is you keep track of everything we spend, and we put it into different categories that we will, again, submit for reimbursement. And right now, we are at $117,750 that we have spent. And just a reminder, we've received $400,000, and then we pay $133,000. So it's a 75-25 grant. If we don't spend all of that $400,000, we will just end up doing 75-25 for what we spent. So anyway, that $117,000 has went a long way. So our kids are going to talk about that tonight. But Dr. Fick's going to talk a little bit about our planning at the high school.
So one of our Compass goals is college and career readiness, and so CNA falls into that category squarely. And we talk about, with college and career readiness, giving students certifications, opportunities, market value assets that will allow them to take that with them into the real world, and also real world learning instruction. And so this fits clearly into our goal 3.4 for that. And so part of that too is we want to make sure that this program is strong for years to come. And so one thing that we were able to do is get this program certified through the state of Missouri as a CTE program. So what that means is that beyond this first limited access grant, that we'll have access to grants for years to come. We want this program to be able to continue to grow and change over the years to adapt to changing times, and that takes funding. This is a program that has materials, has disposables, and so the state of Missouri wants to support programs like this. Nursing is obviously critical to the health of the citizens of Missouri, and so that funding and that continued funding year over year will be critical. Speaking to Diploma Plus, where there's an internship tied in with this class. Students will go to Friendship Village and spend their clinical hours there getting hands-on experience and getting experience working for a possible future employer. Also, this group is tied to our what's called a CTSO, a career and technical student organization called HOSA, the Health and Occupation Students of America. And so the CNA students meet with HOSA, meet with other students that are interested in careers in the health sciences. So greatly strengthens our students' opportunities and networking through other students as well. So when this meeting is over, we're going to leave this building and we're driving across the state to Independence, Missouri to look at some pathways. And so this program is also an expansion of the pathways that we're looking into at the high school to try and cluster programs together. To give you a visual, I linked in the Independence School District STEM pathway. This is not, the idea, but it is a idea that we're going to be taking a look at over the next couple of days in Independence, Missouri, and see how we can put together something like this for Lindbergh students, so that when students are choosing their classes and choosing what they can do, what they want to do in Lindbergh High School, they can connect it to relevant topics that they're interested in learning, and they can see what direction that they want to go. And they're not just taking kind of classes here and there, that they we look at their interests, and they have a pathway of classes that they're taking at Lindbergh.
Kelly?
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly. I'm really excited to give you an update on our program. Our mission is to prepare our students not only for the rewarding career in healthcare, but also for real-life skills that will serve them far beyond the classroom. So far, our students have shown an incredible natural ability with soft skills, which is really important, like empathy, communication, teamwork, and patience. This helps build trust and comfort with our residents and our future patients. We've actively been building on those skills as they grow in confidence and professionalism. They've learned the importance of the interdisciplinary team and how each role supports quality care, focusing on teamwork. They've studied cultural awareness, infection control, hand hygiene, and proper PPE use. That was a lot of fun that day, wasn't it? And they're also learning about end-of-life care, which is really important because I'm also a hospice nurse, so I can kind of fill them in on that. They're building strong foundations. A lot of times they'll ask the same question, well, why do we need to know this? Because they need a foundation. We've discussed that. You know, you got to have that good foundation to build upon to take care of your patients. They're having a lot of hands-on experience. And in the lab, they've practiced transfers. They've done their Hoyer lifts today. That was the first time a lot of them have used the electric Hoyer. They're positioning patients for comfort. They're doing perineal care and catheter care. They're taking vital signs like blood pressure, pulse, temperature, listening to their lungs, listening to their heart, but they're also looking for problems. Like if they're assessing someone, they're looking for maybe a pain scale or anxiety or shortness of breath, something along those lines. And they're learning to report to their nurse for everything. They were also doing different things with ADLs, like brushing patients' teeth, feeding each other. We had an activity where they would feed each other pudding, and we also brought in the soft skills with that to talk about the dignity and, how would you feel if you 16 years old and you've been feeding yourself your whole life, and now all of a sudden someone's got to feed you. Kind of knocks you down a notch. So they've been really sensitive with that and just taking care of each other when they're doing these skills. Let's see. They also are working on some toileting and continence issues with our patients. And there's a lot more to come. We're just pretty much at the tip of the iceberg with this. They've learned a lot about disease processes and special diets, like thickened liquids. They loved that. They want that every day. They use that for swallowing problems. If a patient has trouble swallowing, it just kind of thickens their liquids. Our CNA training program mirrors the strategies set forth in the Compass Plan by supporting students not only in patient care, but also to care for others and their teammates. They're fostering an inclusive and collaborative learning environment, as well as promoting social, emotional learning skills. That's really important. And character building. These values are embedded in every lesson and every skill that we teach and that we learn, helping students grow both personally and professionally. We're now 3 chapters into our book. Our textbook is Hartman's Nursing Assistant Care. It's the basics, it's edition 6. And I couldn't be prouder of these kids. They came in and I thought they were gonna have to learn so much, and they already have all these soft skills that we can build upon, and they're just doing amazing. They're very eager and they're compassionate, and they're already demonstrating the heart of true caregivers. This program is going to help open doors for future healthcare careers for them, and they're going to do amazing things in our community, and they're off to a great start. Does anybody have any questions about our program? If not, I'm going to pass it on to the kiddos here. So I've got Sarah Clinton to my left, and then Lana Moonier sitting next to her, and they're just going to tell you about their experiences in class.
Hi, my name is Sarah Clinton, and this is my junior year of high school. I wanted to go into this program because I want to be a nurse when I grow up and maybe work with kids, and I thought this would give me a good experience and idea of what that would be like. I like working with Nurse Kelly and staying on campus because she's so nice and easy to work with. Anytime I need any help, I can just go to her room. She always makes sure we understand what's going on and really goes through it. Everything's very hands-on, which is nice because I'm a visual learner. I can't just be told something and go do it. And she shows us lots of videos too, so that's very nice because I always know what to do. And I've already learned many new ways to care for people and just be nice and respecting them. And a lot of it is common sense, but I've also learned like many hands-on skills like the manual blood pressure and the Hoyer lifts. Like, it seems easy to do when I like go into the doctor and they take my blood pressure and then I'm doing it, and it's very hard to do it on like other people because not everyone's the same. But it's very nice to just stay at school and have everything be hands-on.
Hi, my name is Lana Munier, and I'm a junior at LHS. As you guys all know, I'm a student in the CNA program, and it's been honestly, such an amazing way to explore just my interest in healthcare. And to tell you a little bit more on why I went into this is a few years ago, I was diagnosed with osteoid osteoma, which is just a bone tumor. And with that, I spent a lot of time in the hospitals just working with different like nurses and surgeons and everything else. And what stuck with me the most wasn't just surgery, but it was the nurses. They were so kind and understanding and patient. And that experience is a big part on why I want to go into this field, because I want to be that person for someone else. And this specific class has helped me take the first step, because we learned real life skills, like Nurse Kelly said, and just helping patients with daily care and communicating with compassion and empathy. So after high school, I plan to attend college to earn my BSN, possibly at TCU, although I'm still exploring my options. And I might even continue my sport of hockey if that opportunity fits. But long term, I'm considering an advanced degree in nursing, but I'm keeping my mind open as I learn more through this program. My overall goal is to become a NICU nurse, caring for newborns in critical condition and supporting families through some of their most difficult moments. I want to be someone who not only provides medical care, but also brings comfort and strength and that little bit of hope when everything feels uncertain, because helping families hold on to hope and feel less alone is just as important to me as helping their little babies heal. This CNA program has helped me build confidence, develop real-world skills, and gain a stronger sense of direction. It's preparing me for whatever comes next, and I'm truly grateful to be a part of it.
All right, that's all we have. Do you guys have any questions for?
You know I'm going to say something.
I know. I know, I was waiting.
Thank you all. And I'll get emotional too, but thank you all for putting this together so quickly, because we got the grant and boom, you guys had to start working right away. And then we had to find a special person out there to be the lead nurse, so thank you. But why I'm teary is I am currently paying for my daughter to go through CNA, a semester of this, because we didn't have it before. So now we're giving our students a total leg up to get into nursing school and get that experience beforehand. So now next step for my community out there watching is we need to open up more seats at the universities so all of the students from nursing school can get in instead of having 50 per university. And I've talked to a couple of different universities and their max is like 50. So we actually need to open that up so then we can get people into our hospitals and move this train along here. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm just gonna say great job. You guys were awesome. So it's my favorite thing is when we have students and staff at our board workshops to get to hear you talk about your experiences. You guys did a great job. And I just have one quick question. Were you planning to apply, or did you apply at South Tech CNA as well? Or were you just, when you saw that it was gonna be, because I heard you mention a couple of times, I get to stay at Lindbergh, I don't have to leave. Was that a draw? Would you have not applied for South Tech if we hadn't done what we did? Just curious.
I did think about South Tech my freshman year, but I decided not to go because it didn't really seem like a program I wanted to go into. It wasn't really what I was looking for. And then when I was talking to my counselor about what I wanted to do when I grow up and my college plan, she mentioned them making this CNA program and kind of what it would be like. And I just thought that was something really nice to get me into the field, but not having to leave.
Yeah, not have to leave the school.
Yeah, it was actually in the PAC lesson from last year, and they were talking about how there's this new program, and there was like a quick slide over it, and then that's when I talked to my counselor, and then I was like, I knew of South Tech, but I didn't really know much about it, and so that's why I was like, when I heard that there was gonna be a program coming here just to stay at school, that's when I talked to my counselor, and then she organized it.
So the more programs that we can replicate, that we can do, you think that's a positive for our kids so they don't have to leave our campus? So just want to make sure,
Yeah.
as I start to ask for dollars and money and community to support other kinds of things, of buildings and things like that, that this is something that we need to continue to explore. So,
Yeah.
awesome. You guys were, yeah.
We've been discussing our clinical site for next year, and what we're gonna plan on doing is having them go 2 days a week to Bethesda, 2 days a week to Friendship Village. And so Fridays will be a lab day, so they'll come back to school because that's when all the fun activities are, the assemblies and things like that. So they can still have that, that experience. That's important for them. So, but they'll get plenty of hours. I've already
How
calculated.
many hours is it? Is it 3 of the 3?
We're gonna be getting about 4 hours a week.
So how
at
many
each
class
site.
periods?
Oh, in class, yeah, we
Yeah.
have 2 periods, so it just
Just 2.
depends on the block schedule stuff confuses me sometimes. But it depends on what day of the week it is.
Okay,
But,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, today we jumped into it and got a lot of skills done. And then there's other days where we have to do all the boring stuff, the reviewing, the foundation that we talk about that we have to do, but they really are, they're so excited to do the skills and things like that. And next year, they'll still get to do everything, but they're gonna be with their patients and their residents. And poor Mr. Bob, Miss Petunia will miss you. They're our mannequins. We named them all, and they come in and they talk to them every day. We're not crazy, we're just trying to teach them, patient care, so.
And about how many students applied for this set, do we know?
For our in-house program or for
Right.
South Tech?
For the in-house program?
Well, I think we got 15 or 14, like, we pretty much got capacity right away, but like she said, it was kind of under the radar a little bit, we didn't have a room or a facility, so, and we didn't have anything,
We built the
it was just-
plane as we were flying it. Yes. Or I said, you guys built the plane as you were flying it.
Yeah,
I
so
just said, go.
Yeah. It was just a twinkle in the eye, but now it's like facing forward, and so we'll see how it expands beyond that. But like Dr. Cavato said, South Tech, they had to, due to their capacity, turning away 15, 20 people of our kids a year.
Okay, one other thing. I just want to praise Nurse Kelly because she not only teaches the students about maybe age or some disabilities, but she also gets into culture, like being aware of, as you're caring for the patients, like where are they from and how they may, and maybe some other things that we need to be empathetic around. So I thought that was great.
Thank you so much. Dr. Fick offered us a perfect segue for our next presenter as he referenced the work around career pathways. I want to take you back a couple of years ago. We had a task force on embedded credits and academies, which led to the work that is about creating impact, which led to the career pathways conversations, and that now is a great transition to introduce Julie Durham, our real world learning coordinator, which was a major recommendation coming out of that task force as well, that we needed to have someone who is really leading and guiding this work. And she has hit the ground running and has really been incredibly impactful in a very short time. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie to talk about apprenticeships.
You guys want to leave?
Yes, you guys can escape if you would like to.
Run.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie. I am the Real World Learning Coordinator. Excited to be here. I don't have students. Sorry, Dr. Lake. But I get to talk about apprenticeships and job shadowing. So as you know, earlier this year, we became a federally recognized apprenticeship site. So we're excited to offer apprenticeship opportunities to our students that can be recognized through the Department of Labor. Where I came from in St. Charles County, we had created a successful model where we teamed up all the districts in the area who were interested to create a cohort of people to go out and do the apprenticeship work together. It was so successful that I went from 0 to 9 apprentices in the 9 months that I was part of this cohort, which was huge. And I can full-heartedly say that I probably would have stayed at 0 if I had not done this cohort. The amount of work and not knowing and truly understanding would have been very difficult to manage on my own. So I've decided that we are going to bring that model out to St. Louis County, and we have reached out to every school district that we can get a hold of to see if they want to be friends with us. The idea behind the model is that we are all fighting over the same employers. We're all fighting over the same jobs and careers. So why not do it together? So we're not having them go to 12 separate meetings to learn about apprenticeships. They're coming to one meeting to learn everybody that's offering it, and we can see what fits for what students in what school districts logistically, skills-based, what would be the best fit for everybody. We're using a lady called Cynthia Walker from CareerWays, who is kind of our mediator. Her job really is to help us navigate the registration process because it's a lot dealing with the Department of Labor. And then help us recruit students and business partners. So we all have our own little list of business partners in our districts that we use, but she goes and vets them for us and sees what they're doing. Is it a good environment for students? Is it a place that we could go that works into that student's schedule? And then she successfully helps us place our apprentices in those positions. Right now, the confirmed school districts that we have include Parkway, Rockwood, Melville, Afton, Pattonville, Clayton, Bayless, with a couple others that are still kind of on the fence. And our first meeting is November 14th, and we're really excited to get this work going. The goal is that by the spring, so starting in February, we'll start recruiting and vetting students in our schools. We'll know what partners are willing to take on apprentices this first round. We'll do a recruitment event in the spring, and hopefully by the end of May, we'll have our first round of apprentices that can start working over the summer months if they're excited about it. You want to go to shadowing, and then they can ask questions, or do we have questions on apprenticeships? It's a lot. Okay. Okay, good. Next slide, please. We're also excited about a new job shadow experience called SOFA. It's called Shadowing Opportunities for All. This was brought to our table late summer. It got passed to us. It was piloted in Kirkwood last spring. And right now, the participating school districts are Clayton, Ladue, now Lindbergh, Live for Life, Trust, Believe, Kairos, and Gateway Academy. The goal of SOFA is that we will have 40 kiddos this semester who we have looked at their school links data as well as the classes they're taking at Lindbergh to see if they have interest or skills in the skilled trades area. They will get 2 to 3 different shadow experiences with businesses in our area throughout the school year. It will be a half-day experience where we'll let them go as a field trip for the day. The idea is to really get our younger students out there that aren't quite sure what they want to do to get out in the field and experience it. Maybe they get out and they love it and they decide to take particular classes based on those experiences. Or kind of like we were talking about earlier, maybe they get out and realize it's not for them and we still did our job and now we can help point them in a different direction. So we're excited. We just jumped on board with this SOFA experience and we will start vetting different kids this coming month.
For the job shadowing, do you see that for like younger, like what age groups are we talking about when we look at these?
It was proposed to us for sophomores for more of a career exploration. The only barrier that we have is transportation because students have to provide their own transportation. So we're looking at sophomores and juniors based upon what their school links data says their interest and aptitude show and what coursework they're taking at the high school.
And then for the apprenticeship, is that juniors and seniors?
It is. It is juniors and seniors. You only have to be 16 years old in order to do it. The barrier that we have for apprenticeships is that we have to prove that Lindbergh has given them what's called related technical instruction. So we have to prove that we've given them enough coursework to be able to go out into the field and do that work and still be mentored through it. So it's going to be more of your juniors and seniors.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How many hours of the day are they out on the apprenticeships?
For the apprenticeship, they don't have to be out at all, actually. So the way that you could do it 2 different ways, 2 different models. It could be something where they work during weekends, nights. They could work summer, pickup hours in the summer or over breaks, and it doesn't affect their school at all. We're also looking into, there's certain school districts that give them credit for going out during the day. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're exploring that. And it could be something where they could leave, as long as they're credit eligible, they could leave for half of the day.
For SOFA, so did I understand that that's something that even if a student wouldn't self-select, you guys are going out and seeing?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm doing a vetting process where I'm gonna look at their school links data as well as have they taken any classes at our school in the industrial tech field that would lend them to say like, maybe I do have interest in this, I do kind of like this. The goal of SOFA is to expand into other career pathways. They're just starting in the skilled trades right now. So it's kind of, this is our test time, and then we'll eventually go out into more career ways or career pathways.
So is there also a way that we're letting students know about this, that maybe if they aren't self-selected but would choose to be in it?
So we plan to promote it out on School Links. We plan to promote it on Parent Square. We plan to promote it through the counseling office. So by no means would we turn down an interested student, but we do want to make sure it's that we're reaching out to those that have already expressed interest. But it will go out to everybody. Great question.
What is the capacity for the number of students that you could take in either of these programs?
So apprenticeships, the sky's the limit. It really, as long as a kid has shown us that they are credit eligible at school, that we've had some sort of related technical instruction through Lindbergh or South Tech, which would both work. I could get as many as I want. A model that's doing it really, really well is the Fort Zumwalt School District. He is one of my mentors. I follow him and want to be him when it comes to apprenticeships. And right now he currently has 57. He's been doing that though for about 6 years, so it does take some time to get to that. For SOFA, we have scheduled out this year, we've paid for 40 kids this year as a pilot. If it goes well, we can expand into more.
I have another question.
Yeah.
A couple of times you've mentioned the technical education for an apprenticeship. Are we looking at, are we just doing like career tech type things, or are we also like looking at other?
Great question. We're starting right now with advanced manufacturing. That's where the cohort will start. You can apprentice pretty much anything. So once we start letting kids know that apprenticeship is an option, we could take some of Kelly's CNA students and apprentice them through Friendship Village. I can take someone that has taken our culinary classes and apprentice them through any type of, let's say, Crazy Bowls or Olive Garden where they're out working. So I'm focusing just to get us started on the advanced manufacturing realm, but we can go out and expand that, and the goal would be to expand that.
Thank you.
I don't have a question. I just love it.
Oh,
I think it's
great.
great. I think it's fabulous.
It really is. Thank you.
As you can tell, we hired the right person, without a doubt. We're so glad she's back.
I'm glad I'm back too.
Yes.
Thank you guys very much. Let's go to Kansas City.
All right, let's go.
Ready for me? Okay, well, I'm gonna invite the task force to come forward, and we developed this presentation, and we all took some pieces of it that we engaged with, but I was asked to do some historical. I'm kind of the resident historian. I was very flattered to get this role because I thought at first that meant that they think I'm wise, but I learned that I think it's just because I'm old. But that said, we're going to go back in time. Seasoned. Ooh, I like that word. Just quickly to set the stage, back in 2009, the Senate Bill 291, massive education reform bill, was passed, and they charged DESE with instructing school districts on how to evaluate teachers. We had a few years to get this done. DESE did their part, then Lindbergh did their part. In 2013, we gathered about 40 administrators, teachers, instructional leaders, and developed what we currently use called EPIC, which is the teacher evaluation system that was compliant with the 7 essential principles of effective educator evaluation. And that was a great tool, 12 years ago. However, much has changed over 12 years, and while our evaluation system remains compliant, it's not necessarily practical. And so we have gathered, again, a group of about 40 people, some of which are here tonight, to study what an evaluation system that remains compliant but is more reflective of what we currently do, the current methods, current teaching, which has changed a great deal, again, in 12 years. This evaluation instrument was to be based on the district's model of instruction, which is based on Marzano and many of his colleagues and that work. And I do want to point out that when we started this journey 2 years ago, we thought we would knock this out, we'd check this box, we'd have this done in a year. About halfway through, we realized that many of our teachers were very comfortable with the agreed-upon model of instruction, but not all were. And we didn't want to roll out an evaluation system that wasn't well understood by our teachers. So we paused the system. We pivoted, to use a word that we use a lot around here. And that's unusual for an organization to say, you know what, we're not going to meet our deadline. We're going to voluntarily pause this work. We're going to take a breath. We're going to make sure we do this right and not roll out something that is half-baked, so to speak. So that was an impressive move. It was smart because the place we're in now, our current position, is very, very strong. Over the course of this past summer, this task force before you, we gathered in the spring and summer and developed an instrument based on all the things I've mentioned, plus a ton of feedback from teachers. So I'm going to turn it over first to Dr. Mack to begin our presentation, and then have this group take you through some really great work that's been done over the last 6 months or so.
All right, so these are all the lovely people joining me today. So just kind of going forward where we've been and how we got here to where we are today. So from the big pilot, the 40 teachers and administrators that we had all together, we needed to just dive in and do the work. And so we created a small task force with one administrator and one teacher from each level, really to gain perspective and just make sure that all voices were heard and valued. So if you go to the next slide, one theme that you will hear a lot today as we talk is just the need for recalibration and just making sure we're all on the same page. And so we did survey our administrators and survey our teachers, which we'll dive into a little bit about that feedback of how we got to where we are today. Last year, we just kind of dove in and did the work, and we met 3 or 4 times throughout the year and the summer and just started creating the forms. And one person who isn't here today, but our amazing HR generalist, Kim Horvat, she is the talent ed expert. And so we just said, is this possible? And Kim created the form. And we were able to roll that out to our administrators over the summer. During that kind of in talks with teaching and learning, we saw a need for our administrators to have some professional learning around providing feedback. And so that is something that's going to continue to grow, is they're going to have that professional learning centered around, growth-oriented, courageous feedback. So if you go to the next slide, so like I said, kind of that recalibration, realignment of expectations. So what we realized is that even though, we all were elementary schools, we weren't all utilizing the tool the same way. So we needed to just get back and get together on the same page. And so with making sure that we were still following DESE standards, we kind of came up with a minimum number of observations. So right now, currently, there's 7 for a first-year teacher. And so we kind of decided as a team that, we're going to do 4 for a first-year teacher, 3 for a probationary, and then 3 plus a tenure form for a teacher that's up for tenure. And then just that need for consistent and timely feedback. So after every observation, teachers that are on the pilot this year are getting a 20-minute minimum observation, and then they're getting that timely, effective, in-person feedback with their administrator. And then with our current forms, the language is, there's a scale that's 0 to 7, and some are proficient, some are distinguished, and it gets a little tricky. And so we just came up with consistent language throughout the general observation and the summative observation, and it's just meets, growth opportunity, and area of concern. So I'm going to turn it over to Melanie to talk a little bit about how we gained, the components of the teacher evaluation. Hold on 1 second. So you'll hear us talk about these more in depth, but there's the professional growth plan, which is just a goal-oriented, focused goal that the teacher and the administrator come up together at the beginning of the year. The student learning outcome, it just measures student growth over time. It's typically one assessment that the teacher picks that will show that student achievement. And then the general observation form, that's just really that authentic evidence of learning that's going on in the classroom. And then we have the summative evaluation that the teacher and the administrator kind of complete together to kind of reflect the overall performance and progress. And then the PGP results form, just reflecting on that goal that they initially set at the beginning of the year, how they did at the end of the year. And all of these forms will be housed in Talent Ed.
And I should just say, Talent Ed is our software. It's a software tool that helps us manage teacher evaluation. So the principals have access to it, teachers do. It's all online. And it's part of that power school we talked about earlier, you and I.
Thank you. So the teacher feedback has really driven this process as we have created a tool and revised it and come back. And I think the word that stands out the most to me is streamline. After implementing the model of instruction, it's really important that we're feeding that philosophy and that we're supporting it with a tool. And so this new tool, this pilot, has given us an opportunity for that. Teachers really want a tool that is going to support their professional growth, and I think we all agree that the evaluation process should support continuous development, and for those who are in need of growing, that it also supports opportunities for coaching and growth in that. So you guys have a copy of the teacher feedback, but overall, I just wanted you guys to see how that was connected to our process. And then next, for the administration feedback, one of the things through this process that we were able to determine is that lack of collaboration, not just amongst many elementary schools, but even in a large high school, with administrators taking on different departments. So I think just having the time and space to discuss this really highlighted the fact that we weren't all using the growth opportunity category in the same manner. So some were using it as, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to look for an opportunity for my teacher to grow, and they were comfortable with that, and the feedback followed, and that was a good system. But you had others who were reserving that as more of a stepping stone to notify or a piece of communication that there's a problem. So we really wanted to move forward and be streamlined on that so that we, every teacher is evaluated the same and consistently. And so moving forward on the next slide, this is just our agreed upon measurement so that growth opportunities would be used when it's observed that there's an opportunity for someone to grow. And I believe that we'll probably continue to refine that as we put the pilot into practice. And really that area of concern is documented where improvement is non-negotiable, that it's needed and it's documented. But with all areas that we will be supporting opportunity for support and coaching in all phases.
Okay, so this is the model of instruction that we're using based off of those effective teaching strategies from Marzano. And so there are 3 categories at the top for feedback, content, and context. And underneath there's elements and examples that as a teacher, you can clearly see what is being evaluated. And it's very clear. We've had a lot of professional learning with this. We have, each teacher has a copy of this. So going into an evaluation, you know what they're looking for. And it's been very helpful to see it broken down this way.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about the professional growth plan. And just so you can kind of have like a timeline in your head, the professional growth plan is something that we're doing the first 3 or 4 weeks of school. So the school year has started and we're having those conversations of, and individually with teachers, what are you going to be working on this year? What's your goal? What sort of evidence are we going to collect? And that's a personal conversation between the principal and the teacher. So to connect with what Meg was just saying, the professional growth plan is now going to be aligned to the model of instruction. So there are 10 elements on a model of instruction, and your professional growth plan will align to one of the elements. Talking again about streamlining, the nice thing is the 10 elements are also what they're seeing on their observation. The 10 elements are also what they're seeing on the summative. And the 10 elements are also what they're seeing when you meet for your PGP results. So that consistency, I've been in the building for 8 years and there's been new teachers hired along the way. And I just think back to, were we ever very clear and concise of exactly what we were looking for? And since the introduction of the model of instruction and the professional learning district-wide, I feel like we've really clarified those things. And we know clear is kind, and we want our teachers to know what we're looking for, and we want to be able to be very specific in our feedback. So teachers will pick one of the 10 elements, and then they will gather evidence throughout the year, and those are also things administrators will be looking for in observations to give feedback. They can also use our instructional design coaches to work with them on those specific elements. Next slide, please.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah, of
I'm sorry.
course.
Is there any scenario in where an administrator would say, we would like to see you focus on?
That is a great question. When we have those one-on-one conversations, that's why it's so important to have those face-to-face meetings and not just have a teacher fill out a form and press submit, is we will have those, we're really gonna encourage you. We feel like this is where we need it. And, there are gonna be certain situations where like, this is what you're going to work on. But that's what's important, and one of the things we've discovered as a task force and as a bigger group is you lose that when you don't have those conversations, and that is absolutely essential. So we don't want a group of teachers to just meet and all do the same thing and press submit. We want to be able to have those conversations, so absolutely.
And I would just add at the end of the year, that summative, if there are those areas of concern, which are growth opportunity, great. Meeting expectations, great. Area of concern, not so great. That would certainly inform the PGP of the following year, naturally. So.
Absolutely. And as I think it was Dr. Mack mentioned earlier, that we've kind of shifted the different indicators. The PGP is the only one that's a little bit different. We have a scale 0 through 4. Our current reality of what we're working with is 0 through 7. And I will say, in meeting with teachers, they'll always go 3, 4 in the middle. It's kind of like that Likert scale where you try to hang out in the middle. So putting it to 0 through 4 and really clarifying what each one of those means helps. So that's the only one that's slightly different with the indicators. But I had mentioned that we come together in the beginning of the year and have these conversations. Then even if you don't have a summative, you do have a professional growth plan results time where you come back together and you're looking at that individually with the teachers, which then, as Dr. McKinney said, could inform next year's PGP. Those conversations can happen at that time, but regardless, it's a time for you to share things that you've seen throughout the year. But there's so many wonderful things that happen when we're not in the classroom that teachers are also able to bring in anecdotal stories or evidence or pictures that they want to show you that you never got a chance to see, and they want to kind of brag on some of the great things that had happened in their classroom. Next slide, please. The last piece I want to mention is currently we do have student learning objectives. SLOs will be the shortened versions that you'll hear, but it's comboed onto another form, so it kind of gets lost in the mix a little bit. So one of the things as a committee we talked about was having it as a separate form. What a student learning objective is, it's really taking that academic achievement and making sure that we acknowledge that as part of a teacher's summative or in their PGP results. We know that academic achievement is, it's why we're all here. And it's not one of those situations where everybody in your class has to get, meets expectations. No, it's about growth, which is, I know what we talk about a lot with our iReady and things like that. So a teacher will talk about, this is the assessment I looked at, and then I looked at the winter data or the spring data. This is where I hoped the students would get to, this is where they got to, and those are those conversations that you're happening centered around academic achievement. And then you can see the breakdown below, and those are, I believe, per DESE, those words of exceptional, acceptable, partial, and insufficient. So those are set for us, but we wanted to be part of the summative and the discussion of teacher growth.
Part of that Senate bill from way back when, this is what came out of it, because there were some collective bargaining agreements where teachers had agreements with districts that student achievement would not be allowed to be part of the evaluation. And so this is part of one of the essential components that's required by the district, or by the state.
If you want to go to the next slide. One of the things that we really wanted to look at was our general observation form. So our current form that we use, you just scroll check boxes after check box. There's one section that lists 18 strategies to try and observe in a 20 or 30 minute class period when you're in there watching, and that is not feasible or realistic. And so there's a lot of teachers that when you meet, they're going, how didn't you only saw one thing? well, no, I really focused on that group work you were doing or that strategy. And it also breaks it down to the depth of knowledge level and the student engagement level. So as an administrator in that classroom observing, you are just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and have all of these things when you really want to focus on the good teaching and learning that's happening in the classroom. So one of the things we really wanted to do was streamline that form so that it was user-friendly for an administrator who's in there, and also really telling to a teacher so that they get that specific feedback and aren't scrolling and trying to guess what it means. So we wanted to definitely keep the classroom structure, things like students are engaged, the room is organized. We wanted to make sure that the learning environment was supporting learning, because those are important things to make sure that happens. But the changes then really came into how the form goes from there. So we took that same model of instruction, those same 10 elements, and we put those as the standards of teaching and learning that we were looking for. And as part of that process, each one of those is listed with a ranking with, again, the same common language of area of concern, growth opportunity, or meeting those expectations. So teachers are getting that very specific feedback on each thing. We also have a spot that says did not observe, because you're not going to see every single thing, and you don't want the teacher going, what? Did you see it? Did you not see it? Was it bad? Was it good? You know, we know that anxiety comes with any type of feedback at times. So we wanted to make sure that, again, it was clear and direct for teachers. So you have that section where it's each of those listed with comment boxes directly under. So we can say, I noticed using assessments, it was meeting expectations, and here's exactly what was observed in that class period. So it's really nice that it's all very streamlined, very clear. We did, this year as part of the pilot, we have a couple teachers in every building who have been on the committee, part of the work, who then have agreed to have the new resources used as their evaluative system this year. So at Truman, Patty is one of the teachers that has that. So I have already been in her classroom twice to give that specific feedback. The nice part is it's also multiple administrators will go in together. So Dr. Stratman and I, for one of the observations, went together. He filled out the form at his seat in the classroom, I did in mine, and then we could really calibrate to see that we were looking for the same thing, giving the same types of feedback as we were meeting.
And even Dr. Mack was, there we go. Even Dr. Mack was able to come in and kind of experience it as well. Just through this whole process, for example, the did not observe that came from teacher feedback. We didn't want it to be blank. We didn't want any questions to be out there. We also, the comment boxes underneath each of the different standards, that also came after just teacher feedback. So Kim has been absolutely she's been amazing being able to do kind of what we have asked. The bottom line is it's streamlined. It's easier for teachers to understand. It is not pages and pages worth of information and kind of sifting through what is the administrator looking for. So that is just going to be much more clear for both new teachers and seasoned teachers like me. And that was really the goal of this whole committee. So it truly was a collaborative process, and being able to just have those conversations after the observation has been very important as well. Next slide.
All right, so the summative we obviously haven't used yet, but it is set up in that same way. So you'll see those 10 original elements that we've been talking about, but you'll notice there's an 11th one on the summative. One thing that we wanted to make sure was definitely there was that professional responsibility and policy compliance. Since this is the evaluation time when we're doing that summative, wanted to make sure there was a spot to document that. It links in the board policies and that information for teachers, so it's all in one spot, but it is there for administrators to give feedback on in the summative process. For each of those, there are the spots for the meets expectations, growth opportunity, and areas of concern. And then the form links in their PGP results, so you can see their initial score and their final score, because again, we're looking for growth. So we are looking for them to make that shift, and so those scores would go into this form. It autofills, as well as the SLO, the student learning data that Dr. Phillips just talked about, that would then link in as well. So you can see all that information, and then from all of those things, we would mark the ineffective, opportunity for growth, or effective. And having it all in one spot, having that very clear feedback was really the goal of this whole process. When we met with teachers, when we met as administrators, there was just the forms were used in very different ways because they were very lengthy and the wording was different everywhere. And our goal was really to make sure that we could use this as a growth opportunity for our staff. That's what we look for with kids. We're measuring their growth. We wanted to make sure we were doing that same thing with staff so that they could see what are you doing that you're a rock star at and what are those areas that we want to continue to develop you so that you are the best you can be for our kids.
And going to the last part about the professional responsibilities and policy compliance, again, just that clear communication for teachers is going to reinforce those shared expectations from an administrator standpoint, also from a teacher standpoint. And that's really the goal of what we're trying to do here is just that open communication between administration and teachers.
So now that we've kind of walked you through our process, what questions do you have for us?
So I was curious, do you feel like this is a time saver? And I don't mean that, I mean, it sounded like you kind of referenced, you were having to go through pages and pages of things in the past to show documentation and whatnot. Do you feel like this, you've mentioned streamlining, but do you feel like you're saving time on the paperwork aspect of this? For both teachers and administrators?
I would say holistically, it's just more efficient from the administrator lens when I'm doing professional learning or planning for a professional learning day or anything like that. It's very focused because I know the 10 areas and it's research-based, it's Marzano, like I know it's good teaching and I can then have that lens and the teachers, like for 2 years we focused on feedback as a building because that was our building goal. We're focusing on content right now. So even though teachers may have different PGPs, as a building, we're living in content because we spent 2 years living in feedback. So it's just nice to have that focused lens. And in that way, it's a time saver because there's an efficiency piece and everything's connected. And we just do better when everything is connected and it's not something here and something here and something here. Everything makes sense together. So in that way, I feel like it's more efficient for teachers and administrators.
Is there a way, when you're looking at all these results, if let's just say that, is it in a program somewhere where you can be like, oh my gosh, like 60% of my teachers need to improve on knowledge application lessons? Is it somewhere where you can kind of aggregate the data that way so that you'd be able to tailor any kind of professional learning that way?
I think that's probably a question for our tech person, Kim Horvat, but I would say probably at this moment, no.
I asked, there is not currently, so I'm a data person, I'm a math person, it's just who I am. So I did ask, there's not a way in the system right now. So like for our building, we compile a spreadsheet that has all of the teachers, it has what is their SLO, what is their PGP, what are we seeing? So as we observe, we're not just tracking, yes, I observed Patty Thomas, check, I went in her room, but it kind of says, here was an area that was awesome, here's an area we need to work on, so that when we're planning professional learning, we have kind of a quick snapshot of that.
One of the things that's not as helpful, but the state requires that we provide that last piece you saw about ineffective, effective, or insufficient, or the three, ineffective, growth, opportunity, or effective. We're required to provide that every year at the end of June. It's called Screen 18A, and it does aggregate that. So for the district, we show this percentage of teachers were this and that, but that doesn't necessarily help the buildings as we'd like it to. So that's something we go back to Power School. They're our vendor for the software and say, this is technology we need, and please work on this, and we hope that they do. And sometimes they're great to work with, not always. Other questions? If not, just to let you know, we pilot the rest of this year, and then our plan at this point is to roll this thing out with, applying any feedback we get between now and then. And there's a great quote on there that, if you go back to that slide, because I can't read this screen column without my different glasses, but it said, I'm excited about the new system, but I believe it's essential that our message clearly communicate that this process is rooted in growth as both educators and learners. That came from one of our people, so I thought that was pretty good, profound, and reflects our mission. So, thank you.
All right, Beth, I think you're up next. We have time for you.
We always have time.
Well, ours is It's pretty brief, but I'm happy to have Jason Brown join me today, our Director of Safety and Security. And Jason, we brought in early in our process of reworking and formalizing our crisis communication plan. So we'll start with this slide to just walk you through the process and the timeline for this Compass goal. We started this work last spring. Really just want the goal of formalizing and revising our crisis communication plan was one, first and foremost, to protect safety for our staff and students, to make sure we're communicating effectively and accurately during a crisis, having those procedures in place, especially when tension is high and people priorities are safety. We want to make sure we have a clear procedure that can be followed. And then, of course, that helps us build trust with our families and our community. So you can see this process. We started with assessing our current procedures, including all of our current documentation that we use, our current processes that we have in place. And we brought the Donovan Group in to help us with this. They are the group that helped us with our communications audit. And this was a natural next step to have them help us with our communications plan for crisis. So after the assessment, they interviewed about 30 individuals in our community, including administrators, staff, local law enforcement, community partners such as local municipalities, to talk about our crisis response as it stands and evaluate strengths and weaknesses. Then we had an in-person meeting at the end of last school year with our team to really talk through what that assessment found and set our priorities for revising the plan. In the summertime, they worked to customize our templates and our plan with Jason's help and with my review. And then we did some professional learning in August with our administrative team to walk through our crisis communications plan, answer questions, and train everybody. Looking beyond, we also have access to the Donovan Group 24/7 for crisis communication response. So we have a great team here, the communications team, to respond, but in the event we need to call in additional reinforcement, that is offered as part of this process from them as well. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we went through and identified strengths and weaknesses. The strengths that we identified through this process were that things already happening, timely alerts via text and email for our families in the event of a crisis, a strong central voice in the communications department, and building that community trust from transparency and consistency.
Yeah, and one of our strengths that really stood out is our,
press the button.
sorry. One of our strengths that really stood out was our layered tools for internal communication. Centegix has been really big for our district the last couple of years. Our radios, our text, our emails, that communication was out there. As you'll see, pros that we had a lot of it, and so that was one of our strengths. Positive partnerships with our SROs and first responders. We've built really good relationships. We have a lot of different municipalities, as she said, and those people we deal with all the time. We have constant communication with them, so that was a positive. And then debriefing after major events was found to be a strength. So anytime that something went down in the district required a debriefing conversation, we did a pretty good job with that on major events.
So, and then moving to the next slide, we'll look at what some of our challenges were. I think the common theme across these challenges is that we are good at responding in a crisis with communication, but we were very reliant on individuals and on institutional knowledge, and we were not relying enough on clear procedures and roles. So that was a major priority for us in this plan, was developing role clarity across all of our employees and leaders, including backup roles, to take on different points of communication so that everybody knows their role, everybody knows how to respond. That visual communication flow chart that we developed illustrates that, so that's very clear. And then what I just said as far as over-reliance on individuals. So we're really shifting our model, so now we're relying more on the procedures, and then the individuals have the tools they need to implement those procedures.
Yeah, and some of the gaps in training that we discovered, some of the training was just more of transparency, not necessarily in training as far as who's responsible for what, as Beth just mentioned. For instance, if we're gonna have a severe weather incident with a tornado, there was a lot of different people getting a lot of different phone calls about trying to figure out what needed to happen, and that needed to be, pared down, because that's not very efficient. Everybody needs to be on the same page. We have to be where we need to be as a district so that everybody is safe in the same regards, and not everybody's having to make that decision. So those kind of gaps were in there, and then training people on that call down list that we have is important. Drills and training for central office and district staff. We've done a really good job the last couple of years of keeping our kids safe. And I think some of our adults in some of our buildings had taken kind of the back burner of assuming understanding of certain things. And so part of that is more tabletop things at the central office level, centralized teams so that if something major goes down at an elementary school, the team that is handling that at like a rally or reunification point would be central office employees that are independent of the situation, that can always be there and be ready to do that, so we can better train them with their availability and those sort of things. And then need for standardized debriefing processes. We debriefed really well on major events according to their data, but a lot of the miniature events, or there wasn't a standardized debriefing process for us to go over to make sure that we were debriefing the same and efficiently and effectively for all of our situations besides just the major ones.
So if we move to the next slide, you'll see the highlights of the plan address these gaps that we have and reinforce the strengths that we have. So it defines those roles and responsibilities. It includes several templates for us so that we can respond quickly and make sure that we are providing our community with information in a timely manner. It also includes guidance for responding to the media, including we've gone through all of our campuses and identified where would media staging areas be, where would we hold press briefings. The overall goal with this plan, before I hand over to Jason's sections, really when I think about our role in crisis communication, is our role is to support our building administrators and district administrators so they can respond to the crisis, so they can take care of the kids, take care of their communities, and know that we have the communication handled. So part of that crisis flow chart, we actually shared that with our building leadership and our district leadership so that they could see what that looks like and understand that when there is a crisis, they can put the communication to the side and know that that's handled, and we can handle it while they handle the crisis.
Yeah, and the new plan far better aligns with our crisis response plans that our buildings have for when bad things happen, unfortunately. So this aligns much better with that. The language is more consistent. It's easier to figure out what people need to get the information when they need to get it. Key contacts, everybody has more access now to who we need to contact with our first responders through all those different municipalities, because our district is split up. So there's multiple fire departments, multiple police departments, and so getting all of that in there is good. Information gathering form was an important part of this process so that we can go back through and make sure that when we reflect on the process, did we gather all the information that we needed to make the decisions that we needed? And the same thing with the debriefing guidance. This plan allows us to give us a systematic way to debrief so that we don't miss a step looking back at what happened in a situation from one situation to another.
So our final slide is just our next steps, and basically what we've done is we have created a toolbox from this crisis communications plan and all of the pieces that go with it. We share that out with our central office communications team, and then Jason and I have developed a process whereas we're going to have each member who's on the flow chart confirm that they've identified where they are, they understand their role, and they are prepared to respond. And then we'll review that annually so that we can make sure that everybody feels confident and ready to respond in an emergency, and hopefully we will never ever need it, but I feel much better knowing that we do and that we have this tool now. So any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, our final section for tonight is around artificial intelligence, and we have our Director of Artificial Intelligence and Blended Learning, Colin Davitt, as well as special guest, AJ Siegel, who is both a Lindbergh parent and the lead for Scale AI in St. Louis. So turning it over to you, gentlemen.
Okay, thanks. So tonight we've broken down our topic into these 4 big chunks. So we want to start with the overall of how we got to this point here. So if you remember back a little over a year ago, we signed the MSBA policy that really was the key for unlocking artificial intelligence in the Lindbergh schools, which then shortly after that, we enabled AI chat by Securely. And if you remember about this time last year, me telling the story about the student who wanted to create a scrambled egg for their cat, using that to show like really how quickly and how deeply our students were using AI to solve problems and go after their curiosities. This year, we'll talk a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about our school AI implementation. And then what we're all here for is talk about the partnership with Scale. And so roughly about a year and a half ago, AJ and I started talking about like figuring out how could we develop a partnership of some type between our two organizations. And today we want to share more of that work. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to AJ to walk you through the Scale.
Yeah, hi everyone. So as y'all said in the introduction, AJ Siegel, I am a proud parent of a kindergartner at Dressel. We were, a little bit about me, just for the sake of intros. I retired from the Marines about 18 months ago, and my family and I moved here to St. Louis to start working at Scale. And we were actually really excited to move into the Lindbergh School District. This was really our first choice for where we wanted to live, for this exact reason, because of how forward-thinking this school district is and the quality of schools here. So really excited and honored to present to all of you today. What I'm gonna, I recognize we have a hard stop, so I'm gonna try and speed through slides, but if anyone wants to drop an anchor anywhere, please let me know. I'm happy to go deep on anything or follow up just for the sake of time. So I'm gonna run through a little bit about Scale, why we're here, why we're in St. Louis in the first place, and that's just to kind of level set a little bit on what we do and a little bit more about us. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our Scale's mission overall as a company is to develop reliable AI systems for the world's most important decisions. I'll talk about it in a minute, but our company spans a wide range of activities and in the AI sector. So if you go to the next slide, please. And one more. Thanks. So to again break down AI a little bit, because a lot of people hear AI and they think like ChatGPT, and that's like the first thing they may think of, or AI is just the thing that makes your Facebook show you like one person's post after another. I want to take a moment to just go into what we see as kind of the three pillars of AI and the foundations that make it up. So I'm going to work from bottom to top because it's the easiest way to go. On the bottom, you have compute. And so within these three pillars, compute is probably the one that you hear of a lot when you hear of NVIDIA, where they've kind of cornered the market on compute. The next one you hear is algorithms. Algorithms, more commonly known algorithms these days are your large language models, ChatGPT, Anthropic, et cetera. The reason why when you ask those algorithms a question, they give you the answers that you're looking for is because they are all being fed by high quality data sets. And the majority of those high quality data sets that go into the large language models that we deal with today, as well as a lot of computer vision models out there, the autonomous vehicles, is because those high quality data sets actually come out of Scale AI. Next slide. So we started in San Francisco. We're San Francisco based, founded in 2016. Sometime I'll tell you all of the funny story about how this company was founded, but the bottom line is at this point, very high valuation, over 1,000 employees worldwide, including here in St. Louis, where we have an AI center. Next slide, please. This really breaks down into the three different categories that Scale covers. We've been powering every AI innovation since 2016. We began, working in autonomous vehicles, but now the main part of our business focuses on model building. Like I said, everything from Anthropic to OpenAI, working with NVIDIA, everything that's a frontier AI model is being fed by Scale AI's data. We have our enterprise, which means working with businesses and helping businesses to get more responsive answers to the large language models that they apply to them. And then lastly, which is what we do here in St. Louis, which is the government side, we have a public sector side of our business that supports a national security mission to make sure that when the government asks questions to their models, they actually get the answers they're looking for. Next slide. So here's why we're in Missouri, and this is why I'm here with you all today. So in August 2022, we moved our AI center to downtown St. Louis. We actually 2 weeks ago opened up in the Post building in downtown St. Louis, which is really exciting. We have brought more than 200 jobs to downtown. I think we're up near 250 right now. And out of our AI center, We deliver to customers from autonomy to GeoInt and generative AI. So we have everything from folks who are really good at visualizing objects and seeing things to folks that are really good at writing. It's like jobs for people who have art degrees and people who are English majors. A little bit about our workforce. I'm really proud of the team that we've built here. We have over 200 workforce members. We've built career growth pathways here. Within those career growth pathways, we actually even have partnerships with University of Missouri St. Louis, Webster University, a lot of different partnerships that we've worked through in the local area here to help our folks earn certificates towards geospatial information systems or earn undergraduate certificates towards technical writing. We have unclassified and classified work to be able to answer some of our country's most challenging AI solutions that exist. About 20% of us are veterans, and a number of them have been granted security clearances. Breaking down just a little bit further, just about our workforce that exists here in St. Louis, geospatial workforce and a writing workforce is what we have. So these are two very disparate skill sets, but in the end, they're both committed to supporting our mission, which is to accelerate the U.S. government's adoption of AI. So more importantly, let's talk a little about the AI literacy work and how that applies to you all today. So SCALE, as part of the White House's executive order to increase fluency for grades K to 12, was looking for a place to go and to start off to launch our program. And we decided that the place to be was actually here in Lindbergh. We've made a significant commitment in Missouri, and as the person who is the senior representative for SCALE in St. Louis, I was personally bought in on working with Lindbergh and advising and assisting with the program here and partnering, because I felt like that was a really, for me it's important, but also, like I said, personally, I know that there's the forward-thinking mindset here in the school system, and I'm really excited to see that. So here's everything we've committed to within our personal commitment or professional commitment here. And there's a lot of things that we have, but the most important thing again is that working with all of you and working with Colin every single day to help advise and assist with the actual with your all's execution of your AI plan. And I think that's really good enough. And we've talked to Colin. We've been working with Colin for a while just to scope this out. And I think you guys are, well ahead of others. And I'm really excited to be able to, apply that and see how far we can take it.
So in the partnership, we've got 4 of these really big topics to take a look at today. And we're going to dive into the next steps to really show you how we can bring this to life. So during phase 1, our focus is going to be creating a micro-credential. Think of a micro-credential as really a small certification that we say at the end of it, we can say with absolute certainty that people have these skills and knowledge at the end. We're going to pull out just 2 pieces here. One of them is, let's look at the very first one, the know. So looking at what is AI, and AJ was referencing a lot about what AI is, but helping our staff know and understand really what this means and be able to talk with it and understand it to a level of authority. And then we're going to jump down to, let's say, build, and looking at how do we help our staff understand and build out workflows. So how do we take an idea and be able to be safe and secure within, if there's any data in there, how to work with that and be able to then act upon that and make real change in the classroom. So speaking of real change.
Sorry, Colin, real quick. So the micro-credential would be for staff?
Staff.
Okay.
Yeah, staff. Thank you so much. To take a look at this, we're going to take a look at school AI just for a brief section. We're going to look at 2 student examples and 1 teacher example, just to give you kind of a round out this picture. So if you look at this one, if you can zoom, or if you could see into the text here, it's going to be talking about one specific student, Jenny Cole, let me restate. There was a teacher, Jenny Cole, who made this space for one specific student in her elementary. So if you look, it's a student who speaks primarily Vietnamese, and so there was a communication barrier, and he's in 4th grade. So trying to figure out, like, what does he know exactly within the curriculum? So we have had other tools in the past, but what makes this different is we're able to add the exact curriculum that the student's working on. Not only will it will translate into Vietnamese, but it will speak to him and he can speak back to it in Vietnamese and be able to have that communication. And then Jenny is able to see it in English to understand exactly where that student is. One of the benefits too is, well, that's nice for school, but the student then can take the iPad home and be able to have his parents help him out with the particular curriculum because it's able to speak to them in their home language. And on the next slide, we're going to see Patty Thomas made a really impressive AI space for ancient Egypt. So they're studying ancient Egypt. They've already gone into a space before, and on the left you'll see what the teacher sees, and the right is what the students are seeing. So they've taken a deep dive into ancient Egypt, but what this space will do, now they have to do something with it. They have to prove that they know the understanding of the ancient Egypt to a high degree, so they're making something physical. So if you look here, it'll give them into having a 3 to 4 minute conversation around, like, okay, so what are you thinking about around ancient Egypt? Now let's go deeper and have a 3 or 4 minute conversation to really target what you're going to make, what you're going to develop. If you look at all those documents on the far left-hand side, those are all the standards that the students have learned during that particular unit. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see that the AI is helping them think through their project. And I talked to Patty tonight, and she said she's never had such diverse projects come up before, because before everybody wanted to either make a pyramid or one other project. And now it's very diverse to, there's things from makeup to sports to board games. It's very, very deep. So their level of understanding is going deeper because of this one tool. And if we look on the next slide, we're going to see this is the teacher part that I have talked about before, but going very deep into being able to tune this AI for specific teacher needs. So there's about 12 AI tools built in that are tuned for teachers around everything from research assistant to co-teacher. And what they've been able to do on the top side is be able to talk to the AI to say, this is how many students I have, these are the devices, a little bit about themselves. And then on the bottom is how do you want the AI to respond to you when you ask it questions. So it could be a data analysis expert, it could be a PLC partner or an instructional coach. And what's been coming out from that has been exceptionally beneficial to teachers and their next steps in the classroom. And on the next step, we're on the talking about another phase of this. If we look here, we're going to go deeper into the classroom, helping staff understand how to better address the student need when it comes to AI and the AI fundamentals. We can kind of take a little bit of a look at that right now, what's happening in the AP research and I always forget the other one, the research and the seminar classes is we're diving deep into with a lot of the AI fundamentals, but be able to take that much deeper into all the classes across the district. And at this point, we would like to ask, at our very brief, keeping with almost in the time frame to end at 5:30, what questions might you have?
Would you be interested in hosting some students as an apprenticeship next year? I'm just joking.
I'm sure we will get there.
I was just sitting here listening like, that's so cool. That'd be so cool.
So I love all of this. I think that one thing about our district that is so great is that we can see something new coming and either be afraid of it or figure out how it can help us do our jobs better and put our students forward and give them an edge. And so I think this is great. What I'm a little unclear on is what are the roles and responsibilities between Scale, between Colin, and between the actual software that we're using?
Okay, so let's go back to the micro-credential. So what we've been working with AJ and AV at Scale is, let's go into the very first phase, or the very first piece of the micro-credential. So we're looking at what is AI. So Scale, we've been talking to them having say an engineer describe in a very short, like say TikTok length, video about what is machine learning, and then another video about really what is AI, what is bad data versus good data, what is safety and security. So helping them fill out our curriculum within the micro-credential. So that would be an example.
And do you have an idea of what teachers, like what it means for them to have this micro-credential? Like what will they do with it? How will it help kind of build who they are as a teacher, not just with...
So some of the questions they've had, while they understand what they've done up to this point, like I've been using AI for, say, prompting or creating some resources, but some of it is like, what can I do? Where am I going to grow to? What's coming next? I need help and support. I need something structured, because some of it is we're learning bits and pieces as we go, but it's not necessarily structured. Very similar to like if we took an English 1, 2, 3, and 4, where it's structured to get you to a higher degree. And that's what staff have been asking for, is like, how do we move forward? Because we have some of the basic skills, we have bits and pieces, but also how do I make sure that what I'm doing is aligning to the district goals, also to keep my data safe and secure. So those are some of the things that staff have been looking for to help them grow to the next level. But also I think that certification piece is something that just isn't out there. And so having something like that in your back pocket, so if it's going for maybe another job or a promotion to assistant principal or another role, here, but also in other districts, having something like, I have this certification and here's the skills and knowledge that I have and I can prove it, is definitely worthwhile. And I also, go ahead.
I was just going to point out, so I had a meeting this morning, a tech roundtable with the president of the Fed Reserve. And one of the things that he pointed out was that a lot of their data that they're collecting right now is indicating that organizations that accept and train on AI are noticing or observing like far more success because they've figured out how to work it into their workflows. So the goal of any micro-credential that you all do for your teachers is going to be, and honestly, any students, because those folks are going to be AI natives that, probably none of us in this room are ever going to understand how crazy it's going to be for them going forward. And so the sooner we can figure out and help to teach any of these students, you all can teach any of these students how to integrate AI and what in their workflows they should use AI for and what they actually can't trust AI for, and how they can actually, like, where they need to be critical of the answer AI is giving them and how to think critically. That's very important. And I think that the micro-credential that Colin is proposing and planning for is a great first start. And to answer the first question as well, like, I mean, really, like, the greatest thing about this is, like, you all now have a Silicon Valley tech company that's ready, to answer that will answer the phone and dedicate resources to answer any questions you all may have. And we've done a ton of studies. If anyone goes to scale.com, there's a ton of studies on like AI safety. And we just actually did very recently a study on something called Tutor Bench, which is a study that's basically, how successful can AI be as a tutor in certain subjects? And the answer is actually most of the frontier models, this is good news for your teachers, most of the frontier models that are out there right now actually were only like 50% to 60% successful. And as they challenge them, they actually start to give up because the models don't do well when they're bullied. And so, like, whereas teachers do have a much thicker skin. And so, like, I would just say, like, these are the kinds of studies that we're doing every single day out of Scale AI, working with some of the leading model providers and some of the leading AI companies. And those engineers that wrote that study were on the phone with us like 2 days with our Scale AI literacy team 2 days ago, saying we'd love to present, we'd love to help film something, we would love to be part of this. And that's the true benefit.
I mean, I think the partnership really gets at the heart of, I don't want to simplify it, is you're going to help build the capacity of the adults in our organization so they then can take those skills and transfer those to our students in the classroom.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But the data that we're putting into School AI is curriculum and things that our teachers have written. That's not anything that School AI has anything to do with.
Yeah.
This is all our stuff. they're just helping with the professional learning piece and understanding of what that is. So
We have no access to your data.
Are you prepared to train teachers and not the Department of Defense? I think there might be a difference.
You say that. A much higher intelligence level of the teachers is what it, no. I think the thing I would point out is that, you know, like I showed on that slide, and again, it was very fast, but like what we do here in St. Louis is based on creating data sets to provide to the Department of Defense. But sitting here as well, we have, you know, software engineers that have 20 plus years of experience, came out of Boeing, wanted to be part of Scale, came to us, field engineers that have worked all around the world. So we have people that are here in St. Louis resident to us, as well as the ability, you know, everyone else is a Zoom call away. So I would just say, like, you know, I have the utmost faith and confidence in their ability to teach people. But I think really in the end, my confidence is in Colin and all of you to create the right program. And we're just here to help. And, you know, we're the like engineers on call. I'm not an engineer, to be very clear, but like there are engineers on call to help out and answer questions without having to get into your all's data and just like, you know, follow what your all's intent is and work with you all on that.
Safe to say also a layer of security for us or protection, because compliance is going to start happening and things are going to change, but also is that a layer as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd say is we're here to help you think through some of the harder questions that may come from using AI and integrating into the workflows.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn Board Workshop 1625?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jen, second by Megan. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
You need to call.
Did you stop the recording? He'll cut it off. Okay. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session at 5:40 pursuant to RSMO 610.021 sections 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, legal, real property, identifiable student information, identifiable personal records, and negotiated contract discussions? I have a motion by Julia.
Second.
Second by Jen. This does require a roll call vote. Megan Vetter.
Yes.
Julia Voss.
Yes.
Jennifer Miller.
Yes.
Christy Watts.
Yes.
Rachel Roth Keeler.
Yes.
And Alonso, yes. Motion passes 6-0.